fast forward to, I was 19, I believe. Yeah, I get a call. So that's what happened. And then I come back. My mom tells me, hey, there's a guy who's looking for you. Our phone number was not listed. It was a secret phone number. So I don't know that person. So I'm calling him and he tells me, hey, this is Christian. We don't know each other. But here's the situation. I run a security company. I've heard about him.
Welcome to Fruiting Body Podcast with your host, Brendan. Today we have a massive legend of a guest coming on the podcast. We have Mick Moko Yoko. I almost messed that up. We went over it like 4 times and I just stumbled. That's okay. It's Mick Moko Yoko. We'll talk a little bit about his last name, where he's from, and the answer is not Japan. So today with Mick, we're going to be discussing where he's coming from. Now, he's coming from Cologne, Germany, but let's dive a little bit deeper into his profession. It is an interesting story. You're absolutely going to love it. I'm not going to share too many details. So we're going to let Mick tell you all about that. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We are Fruiting Body Podcast, sponsored by us, Fruiting Body Mushrooms. We're doing our own mushroom medicinal supplements in Thailand, and we did this because I wanted the product. It wasn't in Thailand. It's not in Asia. We wanted high-quality mushroom extracts. I think we're the only one on Lazada selling it, so you can check it out. Link in the description. I think it's blowing up now, but I don't want to be too arrogant about that. But this stuff is absolutely, I almost swore, awesome. Do not forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell. Let us know. Leave us some comments. If you want to come on the podcast as well, hit me up, send me a DM, and tell me why. Tell me your interesting story. So without further ado, let's get this podcast started with Mick. Hey, Mick, first, thank you so much for jumping on the podcast. I know it's short notice.
It is indeed, but thanks for having me and giving me the opportunity.
And this is this your podcast cherry? Is this your first podcast? Hey, we're
debut.
We're popping the podcast cherry. Boom! I love it. I think Ryan too. So that's 2 virgins in one day. I'm crushing it. It's funny because so many people they've never done them, especially living in Thailand. There's not really any studios around here. Maybe some in Bangkok. So yeah, I love to pop a cherry. I'm joking. Okay. Let's jump right into it because we're going to try to keep this podcast under 45 minutes. I'm going to aim for 38. We don't know. You can see the timestamps now. And, we have timestamps below so you can navigate different chapters of different content to get me to shut the hell up. But we're going to jump into it with Mick. First, let us know how you got into your profession in Cologne, Germany. Bring us from your childhood right up to you're involved in martial arts, MMA, you're doing some refereeing and coming to Phuket. I'm just going to let you run with it. Tell us where you're from and a little bit about your story.
Okay, I'm gonna try to keep it short. So what happens that I was born in Germany, but I'm not German. I don't have a German nationality and I don't have any German blood. So it's all mixed up basically. It's my mom's French, Italian. My father was from Central Africa.
Just push that mic in a bit. Just a bit. Perfect.
Just closer?
Yeah, that's good.
So my mom's French-Italian. My father was from Africa. They've met in Germany and decided to stay there. That's how it all come across. I've never taken over the German nationality, so I have a French passport. Grew up there, born there, educated there. The last 8 years I've spent in Switzerland because of a job that I've been recruited for, which was quite a nice one. And yeah, martial arts, obviously, right? Like most people probably that come on board.
How did you get into martial arts? And I'll just stop you for a second. Like 99% of the stories, it has to do with bullying. And they'll say along the lines of, kids were starting to fight in my school and I saw this coming and someone bullied me and I said, fuck that. I'm going to go learn how to, protect myself. But what's your story?
Honestly, there's no big story behind it, Brandon. I've never been bullied. I have been bullied, yes, I have. But it's not the reason I got into martial arts. And I just love to try. And I did some not bodybuilding, but I was pumping iron, right, back then. And what happened is that I've always been interested in martial arts. I loved watching martial arts movies, and I'm from that generation that watched like Van Damme and all those guys, Wesley Snipes and so on and so forth. And so I've loved it. I was admiring it. I've never done it. I've always been an athlete. I did sports all my life. I started 5 years old playing soccer because Germany, right?
Yeah.
So soccer, basketball, table tennis, all that kind of stuff. And then eventually started pumping around lifting weights with 16 or something.
But
Still no martial arts, right?
Really? So you're starting much later.
Way later, yes. And then what happens is that I started some, people are going to laugh at me now. I started Wing Chun back then.
Oh, kind of like Tony Ferguson, Bruce Lee, Wing Chun.
Yeah, correct. Like basically what Bruce Lee was learning before he developed his own style.
That's with
the wooden dummies.
The wooden dummies, yes.
Exactly. Yes, that's exactly what I did.
Yes.
So I was doing that, and I've met a guy there, and it was cool because my first lesson was his first lesson. So all right, I put it together, and so we grew together, or let's say, how would you say, like we progressed together, right? Which was a cool thing. And then he left eventually, and I've left. I never made it too far, but I've always been told that you have a certain talent, right? Because you see that you have a good feeling for your own body, which obviously if you do sports all your life, that's what just comes naturally, I guess. And so a few years later, fast forward to, I was 19, I believe, 20. And I get a call, and it was so weird. I mean, back then, no cell phones, right? So no page, nothing. So basically, people had to call. You cannot imagine today if you're like a youth of today. Yeah, you were like calling someone's home and asking the parents to, can I please talk to Brandon, right? So that's what happened. And then I come back. My mom tells me, hey, there's a guy who's looking for you. But our phone number was not listed. It was a secret phone number. So he was looking for you. He called your sister's home because he found your name there. And she called me, and he's looking for you. And this is his number. So like, all right, so I don't know that person. So I'm calling him, and he tells me, hey, this is Christian. We don't know each other. But here's the situation. I run a security company, and the gym I was lifting weights in, they had like a little aerobic area where some guys were always fighting there. Like there was some taekwondo and some whatever courses, which I wasn't interested in back then. And this Christian that called me, he was in that gym as well. So he was like saying, he was saying, yeah, and I've known about you by my friend Sebastian, who was the guy that years before I was doing martial arts with, like Wing Chun with, right? And I've heard about him, and you look at, and we have like a big event coming up, and we need people that would want you to work as a bouncer with us. And that's how it started. So I was, more money, of course, right? So I was doing that, and then the same night, like two hours in, he steps up to me. He's like, well, I've observed you, and I like the way you're working, and I'd like to ask you to come more often with us. I was like, yeah, cool, okay. And we train together every 4 times a week or something in that gym. Then you're subscribed anyway to the gym. Just come over and train with us. And I was like, yeah, sure. And that's how it started, actually. And these guys were sick, Brandon. I'm telling you that. We trained together. They became my best friends eventually. Like, we're just hanging out every day together. And the only thing we were ever talking about was fighting. Like, there was nothing else. There was no cars, no women, just fighting all the time. And, like, thinking back, it's like, these guys were crazy. And they thought they were cool, right? But on the other hand, I believe that this is something which has brought my mindset to really be analyzing, because we're talking details, Brandon. I mean, you can imagine that if we spent together, 60 hours a week, let's say, we're not talking about very general stuff, but it was stuff like, let me give you an example here. Let me push the mic away. So I'm in the corner, right? So here's a wall and here's a wall, right? So is it smarter to stand like this or like this? Stuff like that. And then someone will come up and he's like, all right, so you're in a fight. Would you rather have a shield and a knife or 2 swords? And then we would have been discussing that for hours. Hours, I'm telling you. Until you go back home, you go to sleep, and then you have that thought, and then you just call them the next day. Yo, I've thought about something else. But what if? And just details. And that's how I got into being really analyzing when it comes to fighting. And we were talking about, becoming professional bodyguards and stuff like that. So we read a lot of books about this. Yeah, and that's basically my first steps into fighting.
Were you training a specific martial art, karate, taekwondo, or what?
No. We were training whatever works because we didn't we didn't want to do any sports because we were thinking, all right, we're working as bouncers, right? And so we need to do things that follow techniques that work. So we're looking at, all right, there's Wing Chun, there's Jet Kune-do, there's like Bruce Lee style. All right, we trained with some boxers, and the good thing was that, again, I was like 20, and I've been working the doors ever then until I was 29. And that was, by working the doors, I mean minimum 3 times a week. So sometimes more. So, and obviously I was changing the clubs and everything, right? Because we were growing. And then I got to know other people. And then I was meeting Brandon, and Brandon's a boxer. And he was like, you know what? Just Thursday night, pass by at 6 o'clock. All right, so I go there, I do a little boxing, I do a little this, I do a little that. Until 2004, it's a long time ago, guys. Mm-hmm. That was my first time I came to Thailand. 2004, I'm coming to Thailand with friends from Germany.
Just to travel and come see Thailand.
Well, I was with friends, and they had a friend that was living here. It's like, we flown over to see him. It's just 10 days. And I was like, I'm in, right? Because I've always been interested in Asia. Like, we can talk about that later, but I was like, I've always been interested in Asia. I always loved Asia without ever having been there, right? I was like, bro, you're flying to Thailand? Bro, I'm in, right? All right, so we fly to Thailand. And what happens is that I do Muay Thai, of course. And then I was, Muay Thai is the best.
Where were you? At Tiger?
In Jomtien. That was Jomtien, that's next to Pattaya.
Yeah, John. Okay, yes.
I don't know how you pronounce it.
I'm thinking Jomtien. I think it's a beach, right?
Jomtien is a beach, yes.
Yes, okay.
Correct. So we were right there, and then we were, I was doing Muay Thai. I was going, but Muay Thai is the best, bro. I need to do Muay Thai. And so I'm flying back to Germany, and I was like, I'm looking for a Muay Thai club, right? So I'm going to every Muay Thai club around, like spend 2 weeks there, 4 weeks there, and obviously I don't find anything similar to what I've experienced here in Thailand, right? Because it's not the same. It's just not. So like, okay, this is not it. Okay, I need to change. And then switched to all the clubs, didn't find out what I was looking for, and started training back with my friends in that aerobic room of the gym, right? And then in 2007, another friend of mine that was working as a bouncer as well, he was like, you know what? There's this guy, he's come back, and he's so good at fighting. He's a wrestler, and he does some ground fighting, whatever. And we're training with him now. He was in Norway, and he came back, and we're training with him now. So, all right, let me come. Like, just, there was nothing else on my mind anyway, right? So I'm meeting him, and what happens is that I fall in love with jits, obviously, because, something which I've never experienced before. Through my years of training stand-up, wherever I was going, be it a boxing gym, whatever, Shotokan gym, be it a kickboxing gym, I got along, right? I got beaten up, of course, but, I was able to land some punches, land some kicks or whatever. Ground fighting,
useless.
Whole different
at the beginning,
whole
right?
different story. Yeah. I've been abused, I might say.
There's useless meaning when you're beginning, you're essentially useless.
Exactly.
If you have
100%.
Like,
100%.
For people that we're talking about jujitsu, I could have 2 months of training, and if it was your first day, you probably don't have a chance. Like at a certain level.
Yes, that's how I explain it to people. It's like when I'm, if I go boxing, right? I can go box for 10 days, for 10 months, sorry. Let's say a year. I go boxing for a year. I take my boxing classes, which means, because I'm not in Thailand, right? So probably most people that train boxing go like 2 or 3 times a week, maybe. Like, let's say Monday, Wednesday, Friday for 1.5 hours. And then Friday night they can't because they want to go to the movies, and then the girlfriend's birthday and so on and so forth. So it's like leisure, right? And after 1 year, if he gets into a fight, he might get knocked out. if someone spends the same time on the mats training jits, after 1 year, if he gets into a fight and he gets to have a hold of the other person, it's over.
Yeah, it's just too technical.
It's like, the thing is that instinctively, whatever you do is wrong if you don't know about ground fighting. If you want to push them away and turn away, and whatever you do, you're just offering limbs, and they're just gonna benefit from that.
But you found jujitsu, you said almost at 29?
I was 27.
27. At this point, were you planning to do any like actual like getting involved in MMA and martial arts and competing?
No, I was watching. We were watching the UFC, and I was.
So this would have been. This is 2004, 5, 7.
So this 2000. Well, I started with jits in 2007. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Which to be clear, or to be exact, let's say, I started training luta livre, which is also Brazilian, which is basically the poor man's version of jits, of Brazilian jiu-jitsu, because we never trained in a gi. It's like in Brazilian, there were like these two standards, Brazilian jiu-jitsu, right, which everybody knows about probably, or most people, which train with a kimono. And then there were people that wanted to train, but they couldn't afford the kimono. So they trained luta livre, which is less known. I mean, there's a bunch of big names that were fighting in the UFC and everything that came from that style. And, the big difference is probably is that luta livre, you have leg locks and heel hooks and everything from the start, because why not? Whereas in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, like arte suave, right, the gentle art, you're like, okay, heel hooks are gay because you didn't pass my guard, right? Because the art is to pass the guard, right? But then there's luta livre esportiva, which is just grappling, luta livre vale tudo, which some people might have heard vale tudo before, like no holds barred, right? Which is MMA basically. So that's what I was training back in 2007. And so I started, and again, you're talented and you're very.
Sorry to interrupt on that. What's the difference between like nowadays you go to a gym and you're doing basically on a like a weekly schedule, you'll have options on gi and no gi. Mm-hmm. What's the difference between luta livre and no gi? Is there a difference?
The difference between luta livre and no gi is probably the minor, what I've just mentioned, that you would do heel hooks from the beginning. You'd attack the legs from the beginning. The art is to submit you or to dominate you. It's not to pass your guard, which is like the whole thing of jits, right? But since in jits they have started doing no-gi, right, which they call no-gi, it's quite similar. I couldn't, like, if you have like two guys rolling with each other on a higher level, you wouldn't know who does which style.
Right. I mean, it's kind of everybody's training both now, but probably most likely because of MMA has pushed that.
I believe so.
Yeah. So as you continue your training jiu-jitsu and your martial arts story, because I've seen you were doing a lot of reffing as well, but connecting that all into the mentality of actually professionally competing. Or getting or being involved in that, like, did any of this all come together? Like, how did that click?
I start training, right? So I start training ground fighting, which is cool. 2007 that was, and again, like I was one of because my coach back then, Björn, he just got back to Germany, so it was quite a novice class, right? There were no high level guys, so I know I was there quite early after his return to Germany, so that means that I'm there from the start, so I learned from the start, and I got along quite well, let's say. And what happens is that then people leave and other people come and everything. And like at a time, I'm one of the eldest students. And everything I was trying worked out well. Sometimes there were other guys from other schools coming over, like for an open mat or anything, worked along well as well. well as well. So was working out, right? My techniques. And then I was like, okay, yeah, it's cool, but like, what you know about yourself if you don't compete, right? Because it's cool to be the best in the class, but it's like, what does that mean actually? So I was like, all right, I need to do like one MMA bout to know what it's like. That was my initial thought. I need to do one bout so I know. All right, so I start training, start preparing, do my bout. And after that fight, I was like, okay, did it, worked out well. I won that fight by a triangle choke. And then I don't know where that thought came from, but I was like, okay, so let's imagine I'm sitting here with Brandon, right? And I'm on a podcast, and he asked me, oh, what about your journey and your fights? And do you have competed in MMA? And I'm like, yeah, I've competed. I've done one fight. And they're like, bro, one fight, bro. Like, don't even mention it. That's what I thought. It's like, now, for example, I say one fight, and she's like, or you have 12 or 18 or whatever. I was like, then it's like, you're not even in the discussion because you don't know. So I was like, all right, I need to do at least 3 or 4 so people will accept me. And by people, I mean other fighters.
In the community.
Yeah, exactly. Like other fighters, then the people in the community that will say, all right, yeah, he has fights, but he's the only one, so we don't know. But he has 4, he has 7, or whatever. So I need to do like 3 or 4 in order to be allowed at that table.
What is that number at that, like the unspoken rule to sit at that table?
I have no idea. But back then, in my stupid mind, I was like, 1 is not enough, you need 3 or 4, right? So what happens is that I do another one, turns out well, I win, it's cool. And what happened then is that I changed my team. So I didn't train with the same coach anymore. I went over to a different team in Cologne, Germany as well. And they were like, back then, they were like the best team in Germany, or one of the best teams, like I was top 3 or something, with a lot of competitors. And then it got quite fast. And I was there. Then the guy from my first bout, he asked for a rematch. All right, let's do a rematch. So I'm in, and then they had management contracts and everything and sponsoring contracts. And I was unbeaten, right? Because I was 2-0, so unbeaten. And so I was in there, and then I love the vibe, I love the atmosphere, I love the sports and training anyway. And then that community that you've mentioned before, like within those competitors, because we were like pushing each other. And back then, I mean, I'm talking 2010 here, right? So back then in Germany, there were not so many events. There was not like there were 36 promotions or anything. There's like maybe 3, right?
Yeah, because like if people need to understand, I don't know why I always say that, but in this way, 2010 is pre-Conor McGregor era. Therefore, UFC
100%.
hasn't really blown up yet. This is like probably Brock Lesnar era, like around that time. UFC still isn't on the.
Bro,
they're still on.
Pride was still on.
Yeah, Pride is still on. So this is way before it's people wanting to jump and train into these gyms.
It's not at all what is to like. I don't know, like in about other countries, but in Germany today is a whole different ball game. There's so many clubs. There's so many promotions. And that has changed. I've never fought amateur. There were no amateur fights back then. Like you go in, and my first fight was Pride rules, but with elbows. So I could knee to the head on the ground, kick to the head, soccer kicks, stomp kicks, elbows, and no rules. So I'm not saying no rules, but basically raw, let's say. Yeah, and then that's basically the story. That I was in that team, part of that team. We grew together, and we were pushing each other because we were mostly preparing at the same time.
Did you see that maybe, was it going to be a career, or was this just a hobby?
Never. Again, I'm talking 2010. That means I'm 29, right? Turning 30. And I've always had jobs. I've always worked full time next to being an athlete. I've never thought like, okay, I'll become the next UFC champion or anything. Never.
No, you're. Oh, sorry, the dog's barking. That threw me off. You were working as a bouncer at the same time during this training?
I was working as a bouncer, and that was, again, like 3 times a week, 4 times a week maybe, bar pre-holidays and everything. But I've always worked, I've always had other jobs, other occupations as well, which was, I can talk about it.
Yeah.
I'm missing the English word here. I'm so sorry, guys. English is not my native language.
No, we'll get there. We'll put subtitles. No, it's okay.
That was mean, though. I was a judicial officer, so I was working in jail.
Okay, yeah.
But I had the keys, right? So I'm in jail, but I have the keys.
Yeah, you're allowed to go.
So I was doing that for quite some time until I left in 2000. Basically then, I think 2009 was the day I've left. And then I started because I'm, like, let's be honest, right? Because I want to have a good life, more or less. And again, good is quite relative. But working for the state, you don't earn that much money that you could, so I was like, all right, I need to go into the private sector. And I've always, as we've talked about earlier, I was always interested in bodyguarding and security, and I've worked in security all my life. Now working for the state, which is also always a plus on a CV. So I decided to step over into the private sector to be more, how do I put it?
Well, you're able to make better income. You have more flexibility.
Yes.
You're working for yourself. I mean,
correct.
So is that what led you to Switzerland?
No, I have. So I started working for a U.S. company, which I'm not going to name, but it was a U.S. retail company, and same thing, was there, and through my experience, they've appreciated my way of working, and I've learned a lot from them. Very standardized. Standardized, that a word?
Standardized, yeah.
Standardized. Thank you. So I was doing that for a few years, which was when I had a career there as well, which was cool. And then I'm on LinkedIn, which some people know probably. And then I got recruited by a headhunter from London for that open role in Switzerland, which was like, "Are you interested?" I was like, "For sure, let's talk." And 3 job interviews and 1 2.5-hour assessment test online later, I'm in Switzerland and got that job.
What was the job exactly? Are you able to share details?
I was a director of security for a retail company.
So retail as in like a luxury, maybe a luxury brand
stores.
Shop.
Exactly.
So you're managing a team for the security side, and I mean this could be anything like in a mall, like a Louis Vuitton or something like this.
Yes. So we had when I started back then. That was by back then. It was back then. It's 2015. God damn it.
Yeah, I guess it is back then.
Sorry, can I say that?
No, I know. I know. It feels like yesterday though, right?
It does.
Right? Yeah.
It does.
Don't
so
worry, I'm getting old too.
God damn, I'm old. So 2015, I started in Switzerland. Back then we had 96 stores. So I was in charge of the stores, obviously, plus the headquarters, plus the group international buying offices that were in Zurich as well. Plus the DC, the distribution center. So that was my...
Managing all the security that has to be involved there.
Managing all...
It's a very analytical job instead of... You're like, do you have boots on the ground?
I had, yes. And I was, like, fortunate to... Because I was too young to just sit in the office all day, right? So, so physical security was one thing, right? So cameras, whatever, EAS, so electronic article surveillance, CCTV, intrusion alert, all that kind of stuff for all the different buildings. Then you have manned guarding, which needs to be managed. So you need third-party suppliers, which I was negotiating the contracts with. And the same for the rest as well, like, because there's not like one security system installed there. It's like, you do a rollout, you write a tender, and then eventually you find the right company to take over a certain part, or maybe.
So you're helping to do the tender for the purchasing of the product. Correct. As well,
purchasing or leasing or whatever. Yes.
Why did you ever have thoughts to go into the military or like that level of government?
Yes, I before becoming a judicial officer, Like my first thought was to go to the federal police in Germany. That's what I wanted to do, actually.
And that's like equivalent to the US's CIA type of?
No, because they have uniforms at times. It's initially it was the federal police in Germany they were supposed to guard the borders, right? And there's GSG 9, so GSG 9, that is the special forces unit, which is quite renowned worldwide. And that was obviously my goal, right? Because you just don't want to jump in, you want to be with the best of the best, right? That was my goal back then. Didn't work out. Then I went to, because I'm French, right? So I was like, all right. My mom was always saying, you have so many languages. Like, go to don't go to the military. Do the Eurocorps, which is like a European army force, and
Kind of like an Interpol almost.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. But as an army. And so I was thinking about that, and then I was like, well, okay, but you need to start with the French, and then you can work your way up. So I went over to France, and got some information about it. I was like, all right, let me sign up for a year, and then I'll see how it turns out, right? And then he was like, no, it's minimum 2 years. I was like, 2 years is a lot, bro. so if I ended up not doing it, and and then that friend Christian that got me into the bouncer jobs, he was like, you know what we're going to do? We're going to go work in jail, man. It's like the same as a bouncer. You're constantly fronting with the people. And I was like, I'm not so sure about that. But he was like, let's just do it. Let's just apply, right? And as it is, I got the job and he didn't. So that's how I ended up there.
Now, this type of work, you must constantly be on high alert, very similar to riding a motorbike in Thailand.
Well put.
Right? You cannot you cannot drive your bike around here and drop your guard. I mean, it's extremely dangerous. Sure. Same thing as a security guard. How does that work in carrying it over into your personal life when you need to turn off, or do you just never turn off?
People who know me will tell you that I'm probably the most calm person that you've ever come across. Like, I'm always zen, as I say. It's like I don't have those fluctuations of moods or of whatever, getting angry, being super happy, being super sad. I don't go through
this
that.
manic.
I don't go through that. I'm quite relaxed always, which was a good thing, because talking about it, especially as a bouncer, like I was working with a bunch of guys, obviously, throughout the years, and some of them were like, taking some supplements, which they injected because they wanted to look bigger and be bigger and whatever. And I was like the small guy always. But I've witnessed them over exaggerating in situations which was not necessary. And I've witnessed them going to court because of it. And then basically they had to pay back the guy or whatever that they've dropped. And for me, I was like calculating. I was like, all right, so that means that the next 4 months you will work for free because you have to pay that guy. Like, all your money goes to him. And throughout all those years, I've been to court twice because of aggression in front of the club. And I always got out free. Right, nothing, because there were like CCTV, and I was in the group, right? And then my lawyer was, you see that guy? That's him. Okay, see, he doesn't do anything. Like, he pushes one guy, he holds one guy, whatever, but he's not actively fighting in that sense.
So, and when you're doing that, I mean, even now today, if you walk into a Villa Market or a 7-Eleven. Do you have that analytical mind of like, okay, look for the entrance, the exit, what's that guy's do? Is your brain still always going and analyzing?
I actually it is. It is.
What about when you enter this studio? I think are you looking for the exit point?
No, but what I've definitely noticed is that it happens because part of my security career, if I may call this was also working as a store detective, right? Because later I had to train other store detectives, so I had to run through it as well. And it happens that I'm in Villa Market and I'm like, okay, why is his bag open? Like the bag he has around his body. Like, why's the bag open? Why is that girl standing so close to that whiskey bottle? And it happens.
Do you catch yourself wanting to turn it off and it's difficult?
No,
it's just like
I don't.
It's just natural to you now.
It is. It's not disturbing me. It's like, I'm like, I might stand and I might observe or whatever, use something to observe and be like, okay, I'm sure she's going to take it. But you know what? I don't have time for this. And I just walk my way and buy my stuff. But it is. But it's not disturbing me to a fact that to a point that I would be like, oh, I'd love to turn it off. So no, that's just me.
Now, when you're in those positions, do you have stories you can share of maybe a story that that is fair to share with this podcast of a time that happened during this position of maybe something more extreme that you had to deal with or anything? I don't know if you're under NDA. What can you share of like a specific situation in those details? It's a very open-ended question.
I am under NDA actually, but that's not related to a podcast. It's related to like if I was to start with a new company,
okay,
stuff like that. But honestly, there's no reply I'd have for that. But there's something else I'd love to mention because we've talked about my calmness and my balanced state of mind, and that has helped me a lot through fights as well. Like when I was going through my professional MMA career, there were like two sides to it, right? Because it's like two edged swords.
Two sides to every story.
True. So what happens is that I'm in a fight and I'm in a bad spot, right? Because I got mounted or whatever, and I'm not panicking, and I think that's a good thing. I'm not panicking. It's not like, okay, I got ground and pounded, but it's like, okay, I feel like, okay, there's the foot. Okay, I can grab that foot. Or, okay, there's the cage. Or I'm still thinking actively to see, okay, how do I get out of this? Or how do I avoid harm? Rather than panicking and being like, doing stupid mistakes because of not thinking properly. My ex-coach, though, in Germany, he was always saying, like, Mick, I need you to be more aggressive. Like, you're thinking too much. And I believe that that's a fact. That's at times in a fight, I was overthinking, sort of. And I catch myself, like, even during sparring, right? I'm like, all right, so whatever. There's the thigh. I'm going to kick that thigh. I was like, okay, give me 1 second. Okay, let's come a bit closer. Then I'm going to kick you, right? And then you do something else. Or there's a wall or whatever, and then the situation is gone, and I just didn't make use of it. And
instead of just flowing with it.
Instead of just doing it, just stop overthinking and do what you got to do. And that translates to coming to Thailand, for example. Doing whatever, like opening a business. It's like, stop overthinking, just go for it. Make mistakes along the way, learn from it, and stay on it.
It's kind of, even like podcasting, you have to do that from like, a lot of people, like the guest will never get it until you become the host. And when you're podcasting, when you're talking, a question might come to my head. And then as you continue, that question disappears because the timing doesn't work anymore. And another one will come up.
Yes.
And if you don't release those questions, unless they're really good, then you got to save them for later. But you also can't come back to them because the time you can't just insert. It doesn't work.
Yes.
So it's the same thing with like always when I initially started podcasting, you would tell a story and then the guest would tell a story. I'd be like, oh, that's the best question. And then you have to keep thinking of it or you lose it. And if you keep holding on to it, you're not listening to anything they're saying.
Exactly.
And then what ends up happening is you just throw it in there and it's like, where the fuck did that question come from? You're like, I just thought it was the best. Yeah, maybe 10 minutes ago.
Yeah.
So this is how it is with podcasting. You're constantly, you have to flow too. And if you overthink and overanalyze as a host, you will never listen to the guest. And it's not easy. It's difficult.
I know exactly what you're talking about, Brandon. I've been back in Germany, as you've already pointed out earlier. So I was refereeing as well. I was officiating. So I was a judge or a ref or a timekeeper or inspector or whatever. And so I had I've basically run through all the roles of an MMA event, because I've been like an athlete and a coach and a judge and a referee and a timekeeper, and I've been calling fights as well. And that's what I wanted to talk about now, that as you said, same thing, like I was interviewing people, like, right? And so as you said, he's talking. I was like, okay, I need to ask about that. And he, sometimes they're like, especially right after a fight, right? So not in the cage. I'm not talking in the cage, but are you won? All right, judge lifts your arm, you come out, and then I grab you. And then they're still so full of adrenaline that they just keep talking. And it's difficult to just jump in there because you don't want to interrupt, right? Because you want to let him, be in his flow and be happy about his situation, his win probably. But then coming back to that same question is quite a difficult one. I totally feel that.
Yeah, just if the timing's off, you have to just let them go, even though they're the best. Sometimes the question works so well of that second.
Yes.
But you can't just interrupt with the stories. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, people are listening, and if you keep interrupting, what ends up happening is there's no flow. It's just like, we're going this way, we're going this way, we're going that way. Instead of, to be honest, when you watch a podcast, you want the guest just to tell that story and not interrupt and try to like finish their sentence.
Get it.
And that's, so it gets challenging. You're like, fuck, that question's so good, but it just doesn't work.
Doing a great job, bro.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Okay, let's jump more into the Thailand side and connecting yourself to be essentially full-time here, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. You started... Finally, right?
Finally, yes.
Made it. You started Kaito Sports.
That is correct.
We'll talk about this Now, this is a Japanese name.
It is.
But your last name is not. So it's very... Maybe that's the slogan of the store. So now you're really going to confuse people. They're going to come in. It's a Japanese name. You tell them your full name. You're just going to confuse everyone. Like, wait a minute.
Where's the owner?
What's going on in here?
Who's that guy?
But I want to connect Kaito Sports, and hey, if you're in the Bangtao region, they got the mushroom supplements and tons of other stuff, supplements, gis, clothing. Awesome store, just opened up. Kind of by Taste, and everyone's familiar with Taste in Tesco, right next door to that. Let's talk about this part of the journey. I've seen you be coming to Bangtao MMA probably close to the past maybe 6 months to a year. Time goes fast. Tell me the whole story of you actually coming to Thailand. I'm assuming if you knew Ryan, you must have been over at Tiger. Now you're up here. Now you got your own supplement and sports gear store. Mm-hmm. Tell me that whole part of the story.
Okay, so I've already mentioned earlier that I've always loved Asia, even before coming here. The first time I've come to Asia in 2004, Thailand, Jomtien, was... I came with a bunch of guys, right? We were like 10 guys. And some of them had never been to Thailand, just as I had not. So we arrive and they're like, oh, wow. They're like, this is so cool here. And I just, hands in my pocket, walk along the street. I'm like, I'm home, sort of, right? It's not like overwhelming or anything. It's like... That's where I belong.
You felt grounded.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. Those were the words. So I felt grounded. I was like, that's where I belong. That's what I should have been probably all that time. Probably there's some Asian guy running around Asia somewhere that should have been black the whole time. I don't know. I'm just kidding. Yeah. But so I was feeling home. I was feeling welcome. I was feeling like, this is it. I made it, sort of, for 10 days, right? Mm. Yeah, so I'm flying back, and I was like, bro, now I know. I always thought so, but now I know.
So, now, sorry to interrupt that part. Now, this was from the first time you came?
That was my very first time, exactly.
So now you're trying to think of that way. How do I get back there?
Every time. So I was like, I need to get back there. And then ever since, I have come back every year, bar 2021, right? Thanks to COVID. But I've come back every year, like several times a year at times, and only Thailand, right? So I was like, it's the best. Like, and then I get to hear from my mom or whoever, yeah, but Thailand again, right? Because like she doesn't understand, and she's like, yeah, but because she goes to Egypt to see the pyramids, and she goes to Cuba, and she goes to Vietnam and stuff like that. Especially now that she's retired, and like, why don't you want to go to New York, see the Statue of Liberty? And I was like, no. Yeah, but you have to see that once in your life. I was like, no, I don't. Like, and I was thinking, in Thailand, I have everything that I'm looking for. Like, why would I, especially beforehand, right, when I was still working full time, I was like, why would I take off my leave time, take off my vacation that is limited, and fly to wherever for 10 days, 2 weeks, and then I know it's okay. It's cool, maybe. Maybe I don't like it, right? But maybe it's cool, but Thailand is better. Then I'd always regret. So like, I don't need, everything's cool in Thailand. I'm staying there. So I'm going back and forth. And back then I was saying like, when I'm like 33, 34, I'll live there forever. Cool. Today I'm 43, right? So 10 years later, because as it is, right? I mean, I was like, I could have done it by 33. I could have come then. But then it's like, you start buying your first apartment. You want to pay that off first. And there's a second apartment. And, there's always something that's holding you back somehow. And I believe that that's the fact for most people out there, actually. Like, it's like the classic one, right? You study, and then you say, like, when I finish my studies, I'll travel the world for 10 months. But then, whatever, you get your first job, you go into corporate or whatever, you get a girlfriend, you get a wife, you get a baby, you get that car, you get that luxury of Mercedes-Benz, let's say, and then that luxury becomes normality. So it's not, you need it in your life because you feel a downgrade afterwards. And
just
then
ties you down to that location.
ties you down all the time. Then the second baby, and then maybe you buy a house or anything, and then you end up never doing it. And that's what I was mentioning earlier. Just do it. Just do it. Like, if that's what you want, if that what fulfills you, do it.
Did you have to, I mean, you're saying, so this happened 33 to 43, 10 years to now finally this is really home. You're here pretty much the whole year. What did you have to do to plan to make that happen?
I'll tell you what, Brandon. What happened is that, shout out to Bang Tao Muay Thai, because it's those guys that made me come here now. So here's what happens. So I come to Thailand 2004, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 2014 is my first time to Tiger Muay Thai. So my first time to Phuket. So I'm in Phuket, and I get to know, right, the Bang Tao guys. And, this is even better. So now it's always Tiger every time. And then 2021... So 2020, I was here when COVID hit, March. And 2021, I didn't come. And then 2022, last year, I'm coming here. But okay, we're in Bang Tao now. I said, okay, well, then I'm going to Bang Tao. Like,
you're talking to George or Alex?
I was talking to Peter back then.
Oh, okay.
And because he had moved up before, right? Before opening of the gym. And he was like, well, I'm in Bang Tao. Like, well, come where you guys are. Like, I don't, I don't come because of Tiger. I come because of you. So I'm going up to Bang Tao. And all those years, Brandon, every time when I was in Thailand, I've been to Thailand and I was like, I'm happy to be here. One day I'm going to live here. And then the guys were saying that, right? I'm talking to JP, and he's like, when you going to live here, we're going to take a motorbike trip up there or whatever. And then Pete is like, when you are going to live here, then we're going to do this and this. And I'm like, yeah, one day I'm going to live here. And it was always like that dream somehow that, eventually some day far away. But last year, that thought changed. Last year when I was here, and I saw what the guys were opening up at Bang Tao Muay Thai and MMA. I was there and I was like, it's not one day I'll come here. It's like, what do I have to do to come here as fast as possible? I'm 41 now. And my plan was to be here like at 34, like the age most of the guys are now, right? Which is a great age to be here. And I was like, I mean, I don't feel my age, right? Because I still spar with the guys, still train with the guys, everything's cool. But I was like, okay, if I wait another 10 years, then there's no point coming here anymore. Obviously, it would be cool to be at 45, right? That's not what I meant. But you wouldn't be doing the things you're doing today. So I was like, okay, what do I have to do to come here as fast as possible? And that's when I started, grinding the gears and then talking to Pete. All right, let's do something. We need to do something. Right now is the time because Muay Thai is, not Bang Tao, the area is quite virgin compared to Shillong. Exactly. Yeah. I was like, and you don't need to reinvent the wheel in the end, right? Because you look what's working in Shillong, what has been working there, what do athletes need, what do they want? You do the same thing up here. It's not that complicated. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that's how one of the ideas was, okay, there's no gear shop around. Like we have a great gear shop in Muay Thai and MMA. But then there's also people that go like, well, yeah, it's cool, but I don't want to have the whatever. I'm just saying anything, right? So Bang Tao shin guards, because back home, then I'm in my home gym and I have the shin guards of a different gym, which is not what I want. I've heard that, people saying that. Yeah, so we're saying like, you know what, let's open up a gear shop. And I've been working with Phantom, shout outs to Phantom Athletics, forever. They've been sponsoring me forever. A great European brand. And then I was saying like, you know what, let me help you out. I will open a gear shop. And you've supported me throughout all those years. So let me help you grow your brand over in Asia now. So that's
where's the brand from?
Austria.
Okay. Yeah. And their branding is more focused on the MMA crowd, or it's more all like health and wellness?
It's MMA and CrossFit.
Okay.
So they have they have a lot of wrestling guys, a lot of wrestling, some kickboxers, mostly MMA guys, a lot of CrossFitters. But they're like mostly known in Europe, like Western Europe, I'd say. And I was like, and they've been around for a while, 2010, right? So I was like, I told them like, you've been supportive so much and I appreciate that. And now let me help you outgrow your brand, which is one of the plans that we have for here.
How long from the initial conversation with Peter and starting Kaito Sports, from that conversation, that idea to it opening a week or two ago, how long did that take?
Yeah, we opened 2.5 weeks ago. That's correct. So I was here last year, March, April. That was prior to the opening of Bang Tao Muay Thai and MMA. Then the gym opened, was all good, and we were talking about it. And then I was supposed to have an MMA bout in September. So I came back in August for my fight prep, for my fight camp. And then we were talking about it again. All right, what do we do? All right, we need to do this, we need to do this, we need to do this because of work permit and all that kind of stuff, right? So, all right, so that's what I need to do, that's what you need to do. So we're giving up tasks. And I was talking to Phantom about, all right, how can we work together in that respect? And then this year I came here in January 15th until beginning of April. And that's when we have set everything up. That's when we signed the lease for the shop. And started ordering other stuff, and now obviously it's growing, right? I mean, you haven't been there from the start, I believe, or you have actually before the general, like the official opening, but it was quite last minute as well. And so we're like, if anybody's out there, right? Shout out, just contact us, Kaito Sports Official, link here, and
we got you.
And thank you, sir. And yeah, just shoot it out. If you got your brand that you want to bring out, if you're in Bangkok maybe and you don't have anyone in Phuket selling your stuff, get in touch.
And this brand, what was the vision behind the business itself? Was it just for sports gear? Because now we're doing mushroom supplements. What do you see it becoming? Are you trying to just be an all-in-one store in terms people can come, they can get protein, they can get supplements, they can get gear? What do you see that being?
Take over the world, Brandon.
Take over the world. There we go.
So, again, the goal, since you're asked, the goal is to become the #1 gear shop up north, right? We're not gonna. I mean, I don't believe that. Let's be honest, right? It's an island, and especially people that live here are freaking lazy.
Yeah.
Excuse my French. When it comes to commuting, like, you text with someone and you're like, hey, you know what? There's this market, in Phuket Old Town. They're like, bro, that's 25 minutes away. It's that's how they are, right? That's how you guys are, actually.
This area, we don't go anywhere.
you know, at all. So I believe that we can become the number one gear shop for up here. I believe that we can grow further than that and become a big player online as well, because I'm convinced that people that come up here, train at Bangtan Muay Thai and MMA or one of the other great gyms that are up here, and come shop at our store, maybe even this brand, Phantom Athletics, will appreciate the quality and the price quality ratio, so that they'll order online later, just because they're so convinced of it. Or maybe they bring it back to their gym in Singapore, and one other guy is like, hey, these are great gloves. Like, where'd you got them from, right? Like, either he comes over or we can send him out. I think that that's the vision that I'm seeing for Kaito Sports, and then who knows, maybe open another store down south where there's still space. And so, yeah.
Well, hopefully, what we were talking, we'll get you on Lazada too. Lazada is
you'd mentioned
pump
that. Yeah.
it. Lazada, just pump the products, just so simple.
I didn't want to say it because I wanted to keep that secret, but yeah, we've talked about that.
Yeah. No, it does Lazada does the magic for you. It's great. Okay, we're probably almost at an hour now. See, it goes fast. I can never keep it too short. Sorry, guys. Anyways, all of our 8 fans out there, they love us. Okay, just before we wrap this up, I'm gonna kick the camera back to you, this camera, and I know we've already talked about Kaito Sports, but this is the official plug. So not just Kaito Sports, but anything else you're doing, and also like your personal Instagram. If people just want to ask you questions because you've been through the process, you're a veteran now, you've made it here, you finally settled down and you're grounded. I don't know why I'm over here talking in the microphone. All right, guys, I'm gonna kick it back to this camera. Just let everyone know. I'll put links to the Instagram and all those socials in the description. So stare right into their souls of that camera and let them know.
Yeah, guys. So my name's Mick. We've talked about it. I don't know if you've been listening to the whole podcast. So I've been refereeing, I've been judging, I've been fighting, I've been coaching, been doing everything. I didn't even mention, like, I'm co-owner and co-founder of the biggest MMA gym in Germany.
See,
by the way,
that's why these podcasts.
Just a detail.
They can easily, you can go an hour and a half. We didn't cover honestly half of it probably.
Yeah, so just a detail. But came from Germany. French passport, live in Phuket, Thailand, beautiful island, and the pearl of the sea, as they say. If you have any questions regarding your visa, regarding your work permit, regarding where and how to train best, and whatever experiences I've done through my years of decades, I could have even said, of coming down, just shoot me a message. Here's my Instagram. No, here's my Instagram.
Down.
Here's the store Instagram. Come visit me in my store. I'm mostly there anyway. And see you on the
guys
mats.
are open Monday to Friday.
We're open Monday to Saturday.
What time?
For now, it's 10 to 5:30 because I have to do it myself. But again, it's third week, so we just started. But definitely looking to hire someone. So if anyone out there, right, any Thai person with decent English wants to join in, shoot a message down here.
Yeah.
And
let us know in the comments.
I guess that by exactly, right in the comments. I hope that by high season I find someone to store help. Staff, and then we'll like increase the hours, right?
Yeah. So if you're maybe looking for a job, you can reach out and help out in the store. But also any suppliers out there looking to carry their product at Kaito Sports, you can reach out to Mick on Instagram, and we'll leave the Instagram of Mick and Kaito Sports down in the description, or just let us know in the comments if you have any gear that you're maybe looking to get involved with them as well. And again, they're doing supplements. So everyone reach out And yep, that's going to wrap up another episode. So a big shout out to Mick for jumping on. I got to run out of here now. I'm off to Laos to officially become legal in Thailand. After 7 years of student and visas and education visas, we should probably cut this out. Hey, it was all legal. But now officially legal with the work papers. We're getting it done. So we'll pop champagne, and that'll be in maybe a week or so. Okay, that wraps it up. Thanks a lot for joining us, and we're out.